just 63 days, 2 hedge funds disappeared, vanished. These weren't tiny outfits chasing moonshot bets. They were branded as high grade, the kind of stuff pension funds and conservative investors are told is safe. And yet, poof, $400 million in assets gone. Quietly. No screaming headlines. Just a footnote. For now, that's exactly how it started last time. See, collapses like these don't knock. They creep in. They hide under layers of complex products, misleading ratings, and words like contained. But what if I told you the next big financial unraveling won't begin with a bang, but with a whisper, just like this? Today, I'm going to break down the real story behind what just happened, why it eerily echoes the early days of 2007, and the one invisible trigger that causes these safe structures to implode, often when markets are at their peak. Because once you understand this, you'll start seeing danger where others only see confidence. And that edge? It could save your portfolio. You ever hear the phrase, it's high grade, so it's safe? That's the myth, the comforting illusion. And it's the exact same line we were fed back in 2007, right before Bear Stearns' so-called high-grade subprime funds imploded. Sound familiar? Fast forward to now, and guess what the funds that just blew up were labeled? Yep, high grade. You can't make this stuff up. It's deja vu with a shinier label. Here's the truth. High grade doesn't mean zero risk. It often just means complex risk with better marketing. Bear Stearns told investors not to worry. Those funds were contained. UBS just did the same thing. But what they don't mention is that it only takes one pocket of panic, one cluster of redemptions, for the whole thing to unwind. It's not about whether an asset should be safe. It's whether other people believe it's not. So here's what I do instead. I ignore the label and decode what's inside. What's the actual exposure? Who's on the other side of the trade? And this one's critical. How liquid are the assets really? Because the next time you hear high grade, I want alarm bells going off in your head. That label didn't save Bear, it didn't save UBS, and it won't save you. Here's where people mess this up. They think a crisis happens all at once. Like a big red button gets pushed and the market crashes overnight. But that's not how it went down in 2007. And it's not how it's playing out in 2025. Let's rewind. Back then, Bear Stearns hit its peak in early 2007. Everything looked fine. Their stock was cruising, Wall Street was bullish, and then a couple of their funds quietly closed. The firm said it was just subprime, just a few issues, totally contained. Sound familiar? Now fast forward to today. UBS just shut down some of its own high-grade subprime funds. The reasoning? Market volatility, redemptions, and wait for it, contained exposure. Same language, same confidence. And if you overlay the timeline, the resemblance is chilling. In 2007, that initial dip wasn't the crash. It was the spark. Redemption started, funds panicked, liquidity dried up, and prices spiraled. That's what I call a doom loop. Once it starts, it feeds on itself. Selling leads to fear. Fear leads to more redemptions, and down the drain we go. In the next 90 seconds, I'll show you exactly how that doom loop forms, step by step, and how the 2025 UBS timeline is already mimicking the Bear Stearns playbook. This is what I call the liquidity death spiral, and once it begins, it doesn't ask permission. Here's the mini-model. Redemptions, illiquidity, fire sales, fear, more redemptions. Let's break that down. When investors get nervous, they pull their money. That's the redemption phase. Suddenly, the fund has to come up with cash fast, but the assets they hold, like structured debt or low liquidity bonds, can't be sold easily. So they slash prices, fire sell them just to meet withdrawals. That tanks valuations, which triggers panic. And boom, more redemptions. That's how one fund's problem becomes everyone's problem. You might think, it's just a few $100 million. Big deal. But here's the kicker. That tiny fund? It's often wired into larger credit networks, swaps, leverage, bank balance sheets. A small leak in one corner can suddenly flood the whole floor. And that's exactly how Bear Stearns cracked open the floorboards in 2007. It wasn't because the numbers were huge. It was because the fear became systemic. And guess what? We're watching that same spiral quietly spool up again, just wrapped in different packaging. Let's talk about a number that should scare you more than any hedge fund collapse. Job cuts in October, up 183% year over year. That's not a typo. It's the worst October since 2003, and no one's talking about it. Now sure, AI is cool, automation is exciting, but let's be real. Someone is paying for that innovation, and it's not the top 1%. It's middle and upper middle income earners, especially those in tech, finance, and operations. The jobs getting replaced aren't low wage anymore. They're six-figure roles that once felt untouchable. Picture this. Box 1, wages, flat or barely moving. Box 2, costs, still rising from insurance to energy. Box 3, layoffs spiking fast. That's the silent squeeze. And when that squeeze hits households, guess what gets cut? Spending. Cars, homes, even food quality, which loops back into the economy and smacks business revenue. It's not just a labor issue, it's a feedback loop, hiding in plain sight. But here's the twist. The real layoff number? It's even bigger than it looks. Stick with me, and I'll show you the deeper metric that reveals where the job market is really headed. Let's talk about the solution that's quietly setting us up for the next round of pain. Right now, we've got politicians floating $2,000 stimulus checks again, talk of 50-year mortgages like it's a good thing, and whispers of universal basic income gaining traction. At first glance, it sounds like relief, security, a way to help people keep up. But here's the pattern interrupt. This worked in 2020, but here's what happens if they do it again. Injecting cash into a slowing economy might buy time, but it doesn't fix the structure. It stretches it, bends the rules, and distorts how everything functions. Let me give you the economy distortion checklist. Artificial demand, suppressed defaults, mispriced risk, asset bubbles, exploding deficits. Each one looks like a win until it breaks something underneath. So when they push out these headline-grabbing band-aids, what they're really doing is trading long-term stability for short-term optics. It's like fixing a cracked dam with duct tape. Sure, it looks okay for now, until pressure builds again. And spoiler, that pressure is already building. There's an old rule in finance I call the Roach rule of collapse, and it goes like this. You never see just one. When one hedge fund goes down or one sketchy lender blows up, the instinct is to say, well, that's isolated. But that's exactly the fallacy, because behind every first cockroach is usually an infestation hiding in the walls. We're seeing it already. Subprime auto lenders getting hammered, shadow banking under liquidity strain, private credit markets stretched thinner than ever. Each of these looks like a separate issue until you realize they all feed into the same plumbing. When redemptions hit, when defaults rise, when counterparty trust breaks, the whole network trembles. And here's the kicker. Wall Street doesn't smell the infestation until it's already in their kitchen. But you don't have to wait that long. In just a second, I'll show you 3 concrete signals, subtle ones, that almost always show up before the market wakes up. And once you see them, you'll never look at isolated risk the same way again. So here's the big question. Will 2026 be the next 2008? We're standing at a fork in the road, what I call the collapse versus controlled slide conflict. Well, one path looks like a full-blown financial crisis. The other, a slow-motion squeeze that plays out over quarters or even years. Let's map it out in a 3-outcome visual tree. Path 1, soft recession. Think 2001. Asset prices dip, growth stalls, but no systemic crack. Path 2, crash. A sudden liquidity event. Major defaults, rapid contagion. A new GFC. Path 3, grind. The economy drags under inflation, weak demand, and policy distortion. A slow bleed. So which path are we on? Here's my base case. We're heading into a 2001 style grind. Not a sharp crash, but not smooth either. The central planners have their finger on the stimulus trigger, ready to intervene at the first sign of panic. That might soften the fall, but it also deepens the distortion. And what's guiding that call? I'm watching 3 weekly indicators like a hawk. Labor market weakness beneath headline jobs data. Credit spreads quietly widening. Liquidity signals in private lending markets. These aren't headline numbers, but they move first. And when they shift, they don't lie. So no, I don't think 2026 has to be another 2008. But if we ignore the signs or pretend we're immune to risk because the Fed has our back, then we might walk blindfolded into a crash we were told was contained. Let's pull back the curtain. I'm not just talking theory here, I'm positioning my own portfolio based on everything we've covered. Some plays are defensive, others opportunistic. But all of them are built on one idea: survive first, thrive later. Right now, I'm holding more cash than usual. Not because I'm scared, but because dry powder buys options when others panic. I'm cautious on anything tied to subprime debt, private credit, and companies with bloated inventories, like used car dealers. In fact, I shorted one recently. CarMax, ticker KMX. It dropped 24% in one day, and I caught it. Not because I'm a genius, because I saw the signs. Weakening labor, falling demand, and red flags in auto financing. I wasn't chasing hype. I was tracking the math. Now, I'm not here to give you financial advice. This isn't financial advice, it's survival guidance. What I'm doing is simple: staying liquid, watching for cracks, and only leaning in where the risk is clear and the upside justifies the bet. The goal isn't to time the market. The goal is to stay solvent while others chase narratives. And right after this, I'll give you one final rule that's guided me through every financial storm and still works when the headlines get loud. The truth is, this cycle is already in motion. It won't feel like 2008, at least not at first. There's no headline crash, no screaming red ticker tape, just a slow tightening, a few defaults, then a wave of regret when the cracks turn into breaks. But in hindsight, it'll be obvious. So what do you do now? Subscribe to Dividend Hustle, because here we cut through the noise early, so you're informed before it's obvious. While others are still reacting, you'll already be repositioned. And if you take just one thing away from this video, let it be this: follow the Roach rule. Stay liquid. Don't be last to the exits. I'm Mark, and this is Dividend Hustle, helping you survive the noise and thrive in the chaos. I'll see you in the next one.